Hello, CT. Welcome back to another year of the FL League. I don't even know what number league we're in right now, but this has been going on for a long time. It's a great tradition that we have, and I'm looking forward to another year and starting back up.
Yeah, it should be a good year, Jerry. It's good to see you, man. And I think this is year 13 that we've been doing this.
It's too long, man. I can't believe it's been that long since we've been in college.
My oldest daughter is less than 13 years from college, so I know the feeling.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, let's just get right into it. This is kind of a post-draft preseason analysis by CT and Jerry. So we'll just kind of break down each team, little notes that we like for each one. We won't take up too much of your time, and then we'll kind of give like a final rankings and tier system at the end, and based on our predictions of who we think we're going to win. So, what team are we starting off with, C Tizzle?
Yeah, so Yahoo's just got the teams and current standings here, so we'll start off with Jack's team. Let me pull him up, and y'all should be able to see my screen here. I can maybe zoom in a little bit so people can see it better. There we go.
Yeah,
So, what do you think, Jerry?
the notes I have on it is Jack has Justin Herbert. This is a QB driven league. Nels would disagree with that, but Herbert is in Vegas. He's in line to lead the league in yards, and I think he's like top three in touchdown passes. So that's off to a good start. He has three great receivers ranking wise, and he's going all in like blackjack, doubling down with the Herbert, not only to Keenan Allen connection, but also Mike Williams. So, I mean, he's kind of riding and dying by the Chargers season, it sounds like already. His running backs are a little weak. I think David Montgomery is a good back, but that Chicago or offense is supposed to be not great. The whole team's supposed to be pretty terrible. And then I put maybe Jack put the hit on that poor Robinson guy because now Antonio Gibson has a lot more value that now that Robinson is missing the first four games. Don't hold me to that. That's just a joke. And then his bench has a lot of depth. He has Judy, Edmonds, Lazard, Pollard, Hunt, and even Brandon Cooks. I like on as the number one receiver on a Houston Texans team that's probably going to be playing catch up all season.
Hmm.
It's kind of crazy that the first team we just picked right off the bat, just the order of the standings is. I really, really like this team.
Yeah, so my notes say deep team. He's probably got the deepest team in the league. Certainly one of the best wide receiver cores in the league. We'll touch on that as we go through. But he's also got a top five quarterback. Um, like you said, I think he's a little weak at starting running back, but he's got some depth to make up for it. Um, Injuries derailed him last year, but he's got enough depth this year, I think, to weather the storm. Um, as far as draft values go, I thought he had some real good values, getting both Tony Pollard and Kareem Hunt for $3 each. Uh, and then he paid $18 for Brandon Cooks, which was, an overpay, but he didn't spend all his money. So that's what happens when you don't spend all your money in an auction. So, um, anyway, yeah, I agree with you, Jerry. When we get to the rankings, I've got him ranked pretty highly.
Me as well. He didn't spend money for a while and had money left over. I've done that before. It didn't work out the same way where I had a great team, but it's kind of crazy. So far, so good. This is looking like a really good team.
Yep, I agree.
Who do we
So
got next?
next, we've got RO. Let me go to the balls deep here. So for RO, my first note is stars and scrubs. What do you got, Jerry?
I have something similar. He went all in with two consensus first rounders and a second rounder, and I think Kamara could be argued as a first rounder depending on your league and where you're looking. Cook, Cup, and Kamara. That's an astounding, group of three right there. He's pretty weak at quarterback. I think he really regrets not getting Stafford for a dollar. I think if Stafford's healthy, he ended up being one of I think a top 10 QB in this league last year. And it was pretty underrated. Could have had him, but Shmee got him, so he's kind of left with the leftovers. I think Cooper's a good receiver if he can stay healthy, and he also has Lockett, but those two have pretty bad quarterbacks throwing to him. And I feel like he's going to have an up and down season riding with his first three picks. Like if all three of them have amazing games and go off, he's going to kill people. But they can also have a dud, and the rest of his team isn't really going to pick him up. So I kind of see it as a middle of the road team, kind of going up and down depending on matchups for those top three. So very top heavy team, and that can be risky.
Yes, I said RO went with his auction MO, which is to, spend a lot on a couple of guys. This team's top heavy, but I'm not sure here that the top's enough to carry the rest of the squad. Um, again, you pointed out his quarterback is pretty weak. I think Cooper is going to have a down year with Jacoby throwing to him most of the year, and Tyler Lockett. I don't even know who the quarterback is in Seattle. I should know that, but
Gino.
Yeah, okay, that's bad. Um, and then the other thing I think is, can Cook stay healthy for a full season? I don't think ever played a full season in the league. Now he did trade to pick up Madison, so he does have some insurance there. But then I also wonder how big an issue Matt Stafford's elbow is, and if that'll impact Cooper Kupp this year. I guess we'll find out. So
Yeah, I tried to look it up. I thought it was the same injury that Dak had because they called it like a more of a pitcher injury, but I think it's actually different. I think Dak was in his elbow, but this maybe Stafford's shoulder. They're different injuries, so I'm kind of
okay,
worried. I'm kind of worried to see what Stafford's going to do this year.
yeah, I gotcha.
I thought if it was similar to Dak, like okay, Dak still played pretty well last year, but I don't. I think it's different.
Yep. We'll see. I think again, stars and scrubs. Who we got next? We've got, it looks like Shmee next.
Shmee.
The reigning champion.
That's the first note I had. He'll probably love to hear that ring. Defending champ. You know, he with his team, he went, if it ain't broke, do not fix it. He has Harris and Eckler again, except this time now he has Josh Allen instead of Stafford. Sorry, CT. I think if I remember correctly, that was one of your downfalls, is that you traded him Stafford and ended up playing him in the championship.
Yep, that
Yep.
sounds about right.
I put he doesn't have a deep bench, especially like if we compare him to like Jack's team. He has Gainwell or Tony as his flex. That's not a great flex spot, and then doesn't have much depth on his bench. He'll probably have to pick up a great flex with his core four. I feel like this is a playoff team. I don't really like the Dallas D this year, so he'll probably end up picking a different defense. But I think very solid three with Eckler, Harris, Allen, and he also has Tyreek Hill. That I think he's got a very strong core that he can win week in and week out.
Yeah, so my notes are stars and scrubs 2.0. Coming off a ship, Shmee was feeling it, so he spent all his money on 4 guys, then spent the rest of the night golfing.
That was fun though.
His big, his big, his big four may win him some weeks on their own, but I don't see enough on the rest of this roster to call him a contender yet. As far as his best value, I think Josh Allen will. He got him for $39, and I think that'll end up being a value. He's just such a dynamic playmaker. I thought his worst value was getting Najee Harris for 53 with the Lisfranc sprain that he's got. We'll see if that impacts him. I don't know how bad it is, but I just think there's enough injury concern, and plus Pittsburgh's O-line is terrible, so I can see that him having a down year this year.
Yeah, in a PPR, Harris is going to take a hit, so that kind of stinks. But he still scored a ton last year, and I think he's just trying to repeat last year's success. So I feel like you and I have a little different rankings on this team, so that's good.
Yeah,
We'll see. Diversity.
We'll see. So, all right, let's see who's up next.
You are, I believe.
I'm up next. Okay. All right, what do you got?
All righty. For CT, I got second place finish last year, has 2 outstanding running backs, but they're kind of made of glass. Will they finally stay healthy? Barkley's last full season was 2018, which I believe was his rookie year. CMC's was 2019. So if CT can live in the past and have those guys, I mean, he's going to have an incredible season. But you just never know. I think Mahomes ends up being like QB1 or QB2 in this league. I feel like he's just going to really get after it, even though Hill's gone. He's one of the best throwers in the entire league. So I feel like that's really going to help CT, especially in this league with you get 300 yards passing as a bonus, 6 points per touchdown. That's insane. That's a good QB to have. Second best tight end in the league, and the industry is down on Zeke, but I think it could be great value here if it was really injury last year that hindered his season. They're still paying him a bunch, so I feel like they're still going to play him a lot. But their offensive line is kind of worrisome, and I don't know. I don't for what you got him at. I don't think that's bad value. I don't think he's terrible, but he's definitely past his prime. I think.
Who?
Zeke,
I
if you're
don't. I don't.
starting him in the flex.
I do not have Zeke.
Yeah, fuck me. Okay, so
You looking at
Microsoft.
Bryson? Are you looking
Yeah,
at Bryson?
Microsoft Word. I just kept scrolling down on my notes, and it went to the page 3 instead of page 2. I hate how it does
that's
that.
that's funny.
Sorry.
That's
Okay,
funny. No, you're good, man.
rewind
You're
real
good.
quick. Okay, so I think Mahomes. I got that note. Let's go to the real note. Has high ceilings in his wide receivers, but low floors with Thomas, Kirk, and Olave. Thomas has an amazing connection with Drew Brees, but Brees isn't there anymore. We'll kind of have to see if he has the same connection with Winston. Um, I just have a sneaking suspicion that CT will be disappointed choosing between Olave and Thomas each week, as well as Jones stealing Dylan TDs. Um, CT, I have you as a kind of a middle of the pack team.
Okay. All right. Well, I've my notes on my team are I've got a deep running back crew that will need to stay healthy. I'm betting on McCaffrey, Saquon, and Mike Thomas actually to finally stay healthy after a couple lost years for each of them. If so, I think I've got as much upside as anyone in the league. But I also think that I think the wide receivers I've got were undervalued in the draft, so we'll see how that turns out. But yeah, I think my team is kind of middle of the road as well. I thought my best value was Mahomes at $24 though, especially given that Josh Allen went for 39.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a hell of a pickup.
and I thought my worst value, the guy I think I spent a little over on was Goddard. I spent $13 on him, and I was desperate for a tight end, and so I should have gone an extra buck or two on like Pitts or someone, but Kittle, but ended up with Goddard.
Goddard's not bad. I thought you
Yeah.
would be more disappointed in Dylan. I know you've been talking about that you reached and paid for him.
Yeah, I've read a little more about that, and I like having a third running back as my flex. I can choose between Dylan, Kirk, kind of for that
Mhm.
flex spot. So, um, and I think that once James Robinson comes back, I think that he'll take over again in Jacksonville. So he that might happen, and we'll see. It'll be. I like my squad.
So it sounds like you're very low on ETN, right? If you think Robinson's coming back and
I
taking
I think
over.
ETN's going to be the passing down guy once Robinson comes back. I think Robinson will get first and second down and goal line work. So I think Damian Harris last year for the New England for the Pats. Um, I'm also pretty low on Aaron Jones. So I think Dylan's going to be the guy stealing touchdowns from Jones, not the other way around. I do think Jones is an amazing receiver for running back, but I think they're going to utilize them both on the field at the same time. And Jones is going to be catching a lot more passes, and Dylan's going to be the main kind of runner and goal line back.
Yeah, I think, and then I made all the notes before you got Marquise Brown. I think Brown's pretty undervalued. I think his connection with Kyler Murray and his blazing speed on a team that's going to throw a lot more, I think better suits Brown. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Hollywood.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too.
he was on a team that all they wanted to do was run, and when Lamar couldn't throw because he can't, or if he got any pressure, he just ran. So I don't think Hollywood was a great fit. I'm actually very surprised they drafted him, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, my
But the Ravens.
total wide receiver spend was, if you include what Marquise went for, was $4, $6, so 10. Kirk went for 313. I think I spent $15 on receivers. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm not very high on Michael Thomas, but
Yeah.
you didn't pay very much for him.
No. All right. Next, we've got CB.
Let's see if I can get my damn notes right. Okay, I got CB ready.
Okay. So I've got solid squad. I think he's in the running for, with Jack for having one of the best wide receiver cores to go along with, I think, some solid starting running backs. If Burrow can be more consistent week to week instead of having, 2 or 3 blow up weeks where he scores most of his points, I can see this squad competing week in and week out for W's. What do you got?
Absolutely. I think the industry is actually pretty down on Burrow. I mean, he still threw for 288 yards a game, and I know that's an average over all of his games. Still threw for 4,600 yards, 34 touchdowns. It's not like he got 10 of those touchdowns in one game. I looked at his game log, and he did end with back-to-back 4 touchdown games, but he had I think he had a pretty solid season. So I think the industry is pretty low on him with that stat of, oh, he only had 2 blow up games. Just looking at last year, and they improved his offensive line, and that receiving core is going to be awesome. So I feel like CB's team is really pretty sneaky good because I have 2 good running backs still in a running back by committee, but they're definitely the favorites to get the first 2 downs of work. Um, Pittman has a very high ceiling, and paired with Evans, I think Evans is going to see more end zone targets now that Gronk is gone. I feel like Tom Brady just was like, okay, I need to find Gronk inside the 10 every time. That's gone, so he'll probably just lob it up to Evans. I don't know anything about Higgins, but he was ranked pretty high, so having him and Burrow connection, I, I mean, that could double up on points. I definitely have CB as a playoff team, and just kind of going over your notes, I may have to bump him up in my rankings now that we talk about it. So
Yeah. I will say Evans has scored 25 touchdowns in the 2 years he's had Brady as a quarterback, and so and that has been with Gronk. So I think without Gronk, it'll be hard to score more than the 14 he scored last year, but I wouldn't be surprised if he scored 14 to 15 touchdowns again.
pretty low floor, and he's got the guy who's going to try and throw the most touchdowns in the league. So
Yep.
I,
Yep.
I like his squad for sure.
I agree. All right, let's see. Who do we got next? We've got Bryson. Where are you? There you are. All right. So for Bryson, I've got solid squad, but comes with some risk. He's got lots of risk with his running backs, especially coming off major injuries, but plenty of upside. Solid wide receiver depth, and I see a competitive team, but has a very wide range of outcomes depending on how his running backs kind of perform coming off those major injuries. For him, I had his best value being a tie between Jalen Waddle at $8 and Dak at $2. I had his worst value being Andrews at $39. What do you got?
Yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. I have, Dak. I said the same thing. An amazing value for $2. He doesn't have the receivers like last year, but if the Dallas defense, isn't as great like they were last year, because I think everyone's expecting a little regression, he could have a good game script. I don't really love DK with Geno Smith, but he could have a high, like he could have a high ceiling. I'm not. It's just tough with Geno Smith to see what's going to happen there, and there's also been talks that Gabriel Davis is going to take a lot away from Diggs, but that's still a decent wide receiver core. I have decent running backs with Dobbins starting out hurt, and I think the Rams are going to be more of a throwing team with Stafford, but it's still not a bad running back to have. I have Pitts as a great. Oh damn it! I did the notes thing again. I start going into Zach Pitts, but I put or not Zach Pitts, Kyle Pitts. Sorry. All right. Back on track. Second best tight end in the league, and the industry is down on Zeke. I think he could have great value here if injury was really, what hindered him last year. But Pollard's, right on his heels. I don't know. It kind of just seems like if the whole industry is down on one guy, they could have, they have a breakout season because no one was just, expecting it. I feel like that could be Zeke. But he's got a lot of tread on the tires, or doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires. I don't know. I have Bryson as a middle of the pack team. Bryson's a good manager, so I think that'll help him get a playoff spot. But just like on paper, if it was somebody else, I would put this team as barely making the playoffs, that 6, 7, 8 range.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. So, all right. Next up is you, Jerry.
Nice.
I like
Can't
the team
wait.
name. I like the
Yeah,
team name a lot. So,
can't wait till you ridicule my team. It's gonna be
well,
fun.
so I did give you the most mobile quarterbacks award. You've got a solid top two at running back, solid quarterback options, and you've got a solid wide receiver in DJ Moore. It's a good way to start a squad out. If Clyde can live up to his first round origins and Thielen fights off Father Time for another year, there's some potential here. I thought your best value actually was Jalen Hurts for $9, and I thought your worst value was Clyde for 16.
Yeah, that was dumb. In the auction, I was just trying to bid CEH up, but the next person bidding with me stopped, so I ended up with him. I'm not very high on him. That was, yeah, definitely a dumb mistake. Plus, I drafted 2 QBs like an idiot, but I think I have 2 of the best running backs for a non PPR league, so hopefully they stay healthy, and I feel like that's a great core week in and week out to start with. A lot of people are really high on DJ Moore with Baker in town. I'm hoping that's the case. I think St. Brown is better suited for a PPR league, but he seems to have a great connection with Goff with watching Hard Knocks and just how he finally got the starting job last year late in the season, and like they had a great connection, and he was getting 9 to 10 targets a game. Um, I like my tight ends a lot. I didn't pay a lot for them, but I think Fryermuth is very underrated. Same with Hawkinson. I kind of just bid on him. I didn't want somebody else to get him cheap, and I only got him for $3. What about Godwin? I'm surprised you didn't say about anything about Godwin and his
You
value.
know, I forgot you even have him down there. I think you got him. I mean, he's a good value. I think you got him for $2.
Yeah.
So I just, again, yeah, well, I'll chalk that one up as just an overlook on my part. But
No, it's fine.
yeah,
I'm just hoping he can get healthy. He's obviously, like we talked about with like Dobbins, like he's coming off of a major injury. Like, yeah, you got great value on him, but is he going to be healthy and when is he going to start playing? But I think I have enough other parts that I can just leave him on my bench. I don't have to rely on him, and when he gets healthy, and we'll see what Tom Brady does with them. But kind of like Jack's team, I think I have more depth than a lot of the other teams because I like Thielen. I know he's kind of old, but I mean, on that offense with Kevin O'Connell, and if Jefferson's getting double teamed, I mean, Thielen is you know pretty good for a white guy. The only guy I don't really like is CEH, but if like a running back went down, I don't think he's the worst person to have on your team. So um, I think it's a pretty solid squad. I'm hoping to compete. I don't think it's a contender, but I don't think it's also bottom of the pack either. So I'll just have to not screw it up with my managerial decisions between my quarterbacks and my depth on my team. So
I think you'll be able to trade a quarterback and you can improve your depth. So,
hoping
but,
so.
yeah. All right. Well, next we've got Mr. Nels. Let's see here.
Does he have the second most championships?
He does. He
Nice.
has 3. So, and Mr. I like to stream quarterbacks drafted a set it and forget it quarterback here. Um, so my notes are no real weak spots on this roster, just solid top to bottom. Although I do think it's a little lacking at running back after Henry. Um, but if Pierce surprises or Damian Harris is able to fight off from Andre, you're looking at a team which will likely be favored most weeks. He's got plenty of star power too with Henry, CD, and Kyler. So I just think overall just a really good team. I do think his best value pick, which he's traded to me, was Marquise Brown for $4, and I thought his worst pick was spending $6 on Pickens, but I think he got nominated pretty early while people still had money, so
Yeah.
had to spend on him to get him.
I mean,
What do you think?
Pickens could be a breakout, but yeah, I think Nelson's got a very solid start. He's Mr. Stream QBs, but he has two very playable quarterbacks every week. Kind of same situation that I have. He has two great wide receivers and some depth with Juju as a flex. His season's going to hinge on Henry's foot. Hopefully Tennessee can still run the ball. I mean, they don't. They lost AJ Brown. They lost their tight end threat, and all they have is like a 30-year-old Robert Woods. I think they may load up the box and just try and stop Henry, but that's a very tall task to try and stop that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pierce is the guy in Houston, but it's Houston. I feel like they're going to play from behind, and we have no idea how good he is, like catching out of the backfield or blocking. So it's kind of hard to tell. I think he's very talented, but it's just kind of hard to tell how often they'll use him down, the whole season. I think Pickens could be a stud. I know I've said a lot, but this team isn't the best, but it's not the worst. I kind of have it as a 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7 range. I have middle of the pack for Nels right now.
Okay, all right. We will see. So next we've got Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. For Taylor, I said Stars and Scrubs 3.0. He went heavy wide receivers and ended up with probably the best receiving core in the league, at least the best top two. But after Fournette, there's real question marks at running back, and I don't trust Captain Kirk. He could have some blow up weeks with his stars, but otherwise, I think there's too many pieces missing on this team. I thought his best value was Pitts, though, at 25, and I thought his worst value was having to pay $60 for Justin Jefferson. What do you got?
Yeah, he's definitely got two of the best wide receivers. I'm actually really high on Kirk Cousins. I think that's a great pick and probably honestly saved a season if he had, been an RO situation where you're looking at Tua and Lawrence at the end. I think this would have been a really bad team, but I'm really high on Kirk Cousins. I know it's a new coach, but that offense is projected to be really dynamic. He's got the Cousins to Jefferson double down, so that could really help with some points. But then I have Fournette is coming in overweight, is what I've heard. No one really knows that they've lost some depth on the offensive line. Stevenson is supposed to be the guy, but he's still splitting time with Harris, and Belichick isn't, going to let him get to 1,000 yards. I think Belichick just likes rotating running backs where they're healthy and try and pound teams, late in the game. And those are his running backs, not very good depth there. I have Pitts as a great tight end, but his flex is weak and there's not much depth on his bench. You can kind of see from some of the last teams we looked at, like we have some great depth there, but this one's going to be tough. With his flex options aren't very much. And I have him as kind of one of the bottom teams. Nothing against Taylor, but just on paper, it's not looking great.
Yeah, I can see that. So, all right. Well, next up we've got
Scales of justice.
The Scales of Justice. So for Scales, I said he's got a solid wide receiver core, but too many running back by committees behind that. Here's another team that's in the running for one of the best wide receiver cores or deepest, and I love Javonte, but I'd be naive to say that he's the guy yet. On top of that, ETN will have to deal with James Robinson's return, and Penny's dealing with Ken Walker. So there's a question too many for me on the running backs. Also, I think relying on Trey Lance to prove he's ready to carry a fantasy squad is a risky bet. So here I've got just overall a decent squad, but he's missing a couple pieces. I also thought his best value was getting Gabe Davis for $16. And I thought his worst value was paying 28 for Travis Etienne Jr. What you got, Jerry?
Yeah, for not that week one means anything, but he has the lowest projection in the opening week. I think if he puts in Davis over Penny, that'll go up. But that's not a great way to start. That you've just had a draft and you're the lowest projected team. Lance is a huge question mark with a ton of upside, but could struggle with his first full season in a tough division and schedule. I think, they went to the playoffs last year. They're going to be playing playoff teams from last year, so I wouldn't take that risk, but it could, pay dividends. And he also has the Lance to. Does he have Debo?
Yep.
Yeah, so he has that as a double down that could really help in some weeks. I put great core of receivers, Samuel, Adams, and Davis. Um, I'm not that high on Williams. I knew you were, but I'm not that high on him or ETN, especially in a non PPR. Williams is still going to split carries with Gordon while he's there, and I think Jacksonville's going to be more of a throwing team with Lawrence and they'll hit a ETN, but it doesn't really help you in a non PPR unless he's getting more goal line carries. And with that, I have Scales missing the playoffs. I have him as one of the lower teams, just missing the playoffs.
All right.
Just a couple more two more teams. That's what I
Yep.
got.
I think next
Nice.
we've got Mayse next here. So go ahead. I'll let you start.
Tom Brady is the Vegas favorite to lead the league in passing touchdowns. That's great in a league where I'm pretty sure it's 6 per touchdown, right? Passing touchdown, 6 points.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's a big difference. And then he also has Jonathan, Taylor, who could easily lead the league in yards with that and TDs with that line. So there's two great starts. Sutton could have a breakout year. I think a lot of people are high on him with Russ now in the helm. Russ had the most air yards, I think, last year, most air yards attempted. So that should be good for Sutton and Judy. Mooney and Smith are just meh, but Kittle's a great tight end. Hopefully Lance has a great connection with him. Again, we're relying on Trey Lance. That could hurt Kittle. I have not not great depth, and I don't love Casey's defense. I wanted to get your opinion on that. I haven't really looked at him, but I don't think he's going to get much out of his. Not that it matters, but his kicker and defense to start out the season. I don't think New England's offense is really that great. So
Yeah. So I said that he caught the biggest fish and went bargain hunting during the draft. I thought he was able to find some pretty good deals and assemble a solid squad, especially good running backs. I like Swift. I think he'll have decent wide receivers once Gallup gets healthy. Good tight end, good quarterback. Couple question marks. You brought up Devontae Smith. You brought up Darnell Mooney. I think those are good question marks and really no depth here. But overall, a solid squad. And to answer your question about the KC defense, they're young. There's going to be some growing pains. I wouldn't be surprised to see them really struggle to start the season. And then as the year progresses, they gel together. A lot of it's going to come down to, can they get any pressure off the edge? And if Karlaftis is able to have I think his nickname now is Furious George because his motor is insane. But if Furious George and Carlos Dunlap and kind of the old guys that are hanging around on the D line can get some pressure on the quarterback, it'll allow the defense to punch a little bit above its weight. But I'm not really. I'm in wait and see mode to see how the young guys play on the back end.
Didn't they lose Matthew?
Yes, they did. They replaced him with, kind of in-house. They're replacing his role with the guy named Juan Thornhill, and then we signed Justin Reed from the Texans. On top of that, we drafted a cornerback out of Washington named Trent McDuffie, who is like 5'10". So, it'll be interesting to see when he's lined up against someone like Mike Williams or Devontae Adams twice a year, how he's able to hold up. So we'll see. It's going to be, I think there's going to be some struggles for the KC defense early on.
I don't know, just me. Historically, I don't think the KC defense has been that great. And then, they're playing in a very tough division, and they made the playoffs last year, so they're going to be playing a tough schedule. I think Mayse needs to try and find somebody else, but defense doesn't make your season. I just like to, look at that aspect too. But
Yep. The pass rush should be improved, and if they can get decent pressure, then I think they'll be okay. That's really what it starts with. But we'll see. Last one, we've got the stable of stars, Wesley. So my notes on Wes's team: a balanced squad, but without a ton of upside. I'm not a fan of the running backs after Connor, but the wide receivers are decent, and I love Mayse and Kels. With the running backs, surprise, there's some upward mobility here, but otherwise, even with the balance, I don't see enough here. I do think Deontay Johnson was his best value at $13, but I thought his worst values were Josh Jacobs for 28 and Breece Hall for 33.
Wow, I didn't realize he spent that much on them.
Yeah, what do you got?
I got Russ. Russ is going to cook. I have a sneaking suspicion that this was absolute great value. I think Russ is, he's got two great receivers, and he's change of scenery. We'll see how he does. Still, let's see if he's, up to the challenge. I love his backup QB. Reigning MVP. Jonathan Taylor didn't win MVP, right? It was Aaron Rodgers last year.
Rodgers. Yep.
Yeah. So that's definitely not a bad backup. I'm actually pretty high on Rodgers. I think all he wants to do is throw touchdown passes and doesn't really like handing it off. So not a bad backup QB. He has the best tight end in the league. I mean, automatic floor of 1,000 yards and 80 catches and 8 touchdowns. Like that's Kelsey's minimum, right? If he's healthy.
Yep.
So that's great. That's great to start with. Deontay Johnson is a great receiver. I just know Big Ben loved him. I feel like that's all Big Ben looked at. I feel like that's all Big Ben looked at, and so we'll see what Trubisky and Pickett can do. I'm not that high in Breece Hall. I think Michael Carter's still going to play a role, but a lot of people are really high in Breece Hall. I know in other drafts he's been going really high. I've been told to stay away from Jacobs. I don't really know why. That's just kind of what I've been told. I think Derek Carr and them in that offense is just going to throw it, and probably Jacobs not going to get very many carries. But West does have some RB depth, and Ayuk on the bench, who could have a breakout season. A lot of people are high on Ayuk. He's going to have to make some decisions every week, and that can be tough. But I kind of see him as a 7th, 8th place team, not really making the playoffs, but not dead last either.
Yeah, I see. I gotcha. I do think Miles Sanders is a little bit better backup than you think. I know that you've got him in a league, and I think he's going to end up leading that backfield. And I think there's some positive touchdown regression in his future, but he's just got to stay healthy.
Yeah, touchdown regression from 0 last year.
From 0, nowhere to go but up. Yeah. So. All right, well, I think we've made it through all the teams. Why don't we kind of reveal some rankings? And I know you said that you've got teams in tiers. You've talked a little bit about that as we've gone on. I've gone ahead and ranked teams from 12 to 1. So
hang on. Hey, CT, so someone keeps calling me, so
okay.
I didn't expect this, so I got to go.
You got to go. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back for part 2.
All righty. See ya.
All right. Bye.